let's get more into what we're seeing today for guys shooting compound style bows. This is an example of a fixed blade, four-bladed broadhead. And what's really nice about this four-bladed broadhead is that you have a removable set of blades to make it a two-bladed broadhead. Again, aerodynamics in this blade really make it simple to tune and simple to set up on higher speed bows. It has a nice long tapered tip in a compact style with what we call a delta style cut into the broadhead. Again, it's very strong. It's solid steel all the way to the ferrule. And in a two-bladed design, or even in a four-bladed design, because of the compact size, this is a very successful style broadhead when setting up and tuning. Some other examples that you might see that fly real well with a two-blade style with a small bleeder blade would be like the Stinger Buzz Cut and some of the other broadheads of that style that are out there. We move on to that and get more into the three-bladed style broadhead in the True Cut on Impacts. And there's various styles in that as well. I'm basically showing you the fixed blades now that do not have removable blades. These are all solid injection molded style blades. And one of the ones that's been most successful in the injection molded industry, basically developed it for the broadhead, has been the G5 Montec. The G5 Montec has very good aerodynamics because of its compact style. It has very strong blades, and it is a true cut on impact where the blade start at the point and end at the hill. It is a three-bladed style broadhead, again more compact than what we've previously shown you, and has very good cutouts in the blades to prevent aeroplaning and aeroflight problems. This is probably one of the easier of the fixed-bladed broadheads we've found to tune. In a lot of cases, it flies identical to your field points. I want to move on from there and talk about real quickly one of my favorite broadheads, and I say favorite as in, again, application. I'm looking to use this style broadhead where I have a heavy carcass. Again, remember, what I'm trying to do is eliminate the amount of kinetic energy I lose as I enter into a carcass. There's a number of factors that apply to this. Again, the rake angle on this broadhead is not as sharp as I have with the G5. So the actual kinetics expended as that broadhead enters into the carcass, I'm not going to lose as much as I would with, say, a shorter compact broadhead. The benefit to the razor cap, which is made by Knapp, is that there's a lot of variations that I can apply to this. The head cartridge itself unscrews from the ferrule, and I can change the weights for this broadhead by changing the ferrule weight. And by changing the ferrule weight, I can change the FOC of the air shaft. I can improve my kinetics. I can add more weight to the front. It's a little easier to tune. And what's really surprising out of the package is that this broadhead tunes very, very well. I know the size is kind of intimidating for a lot of people when you look at a blade this size and hear some of the old nightmares that we dealt with back in the 70s and 80s about trying to get air shafts to fly and tune with these big broadheads. The Razor Cap has done a real good job with their development of the cutouts in this blade and the way the arrow will fly. This is a very good broadhead. And I want to kind of throw it back here real quick and look a little bit backwards towards history. This broadhead that I'm showing you here is basically the same broadhead, the same basic geometry of the broadheads. Okay, this is a late 1960s, early 1970 fixed blade, three-blade solid metal broadhead. Notice there's no cutouts. This is almost one of those that you'd love to be able to try to tune, but it's impossible on a faster bow for today. So this is where technology has come in and really improved with the Razor Cap, and still gives you the benefit of that long rake angle in a broadhead. I want to move on from the cut on impact style and give you some examples of a chisel point style broadhead. One of the ones that have been around the longest in the industry and really has been successful has been the Thunderhead. A lot of broadhead manufacturers have developed blades or developed broadheads that are similar to this type broadhead. Again, it's a three-blade style, but has a chisel point tip. Now, there's a lot of discussion out there about the benefits of a chisel point versus a true cut on impact. And this is what I found over the years, is that it doesn't matter what angle that I'm coming in on an animal, be it 35, 40 degrees out, at a quartering away shot or quartering to me shot. This broadhead, as it enters, is cutting as soon as it touches the carcass. I have less arrow lift or arrow whip as I enter into the carcass, which is going to save in kinetic energy and penetration. Whereas a lot of times you'll see with a chisel point style broadhead, and you can see as I'm just slightly pushing on this, this is digging into the paper just as soon as I start to push on it. This, you see the chisel point, it's not really trying to stop at all. It's wanting to slide. And this is pretty much what will happen on a carcass style, even with the speeds that you're trying to punch it in. I want to say this is what I use as a rule of thumb. I'll never shoot a quartering away shot more than about 20 degrees, 25 degrees with a chisel point style broadhead, just for that reason, because I have some slippage. And this, when the tip does finally catch, I do see a little more whip out of the air shaft as it enters into the carcass, expending energy and a lot letting that broadhead do its job as it passes through the carcass. Now, with these style blades that we're talking about now, with the Thunderheads and the Muzzies and the Grim Reapers and the Wasps and all these that are out there today with the replaceable blades, these are an extremely, extremely sharp broadhead. Out of the package, these are all honed and polished to a shavable edge. The big drawback with this style broadhead, when you talk fixed broadheads going into big carcassed animals or heavy boned animals, is that we get into blade thickness being a problem. These style blades, or these light blades, have been known to break when hitting a rib bone or hitting a shoulder bone going into an elk or into a bear or even into a hog's shoulder. These blades right here, they work great in light, in what I consider a light carcassed animal like a goat or a whitetail or an antelope. Not one of my favorite broadheads when we start talking heavy carcassed animals. This is probably one of the most popular and most used broadheads out there. This is a Muzzy. It's a 4-bladed type broadhead. The cutting diameter is a little bit smaller than what I showed you on the Thunderhead, but it has a true chisel point, a little better than what we see on the Thunderhead. It's a little wider, and because of the cutouts, it does catch the paper just as soon as we start to add pressure, as long as we do not exceed that grind angle. When I get past 30 degrees, this broadhead will slip. It doesn't catch as easy, okay, when I exceed 30 degrees. So what I try to do is use that as a rule of thumb, again, with these chisel point style broadheads, not to exceed 30 degrees on a quartering away shot. The one thing to note about this with the different style broadheads, and we'll talk real quick about compact versus long length again. We pointed out with the traditional style broadheads that we saw over here, the true cut on impacts with the razors, that this broadhead saved kinetic energy for us because of the length of the blade. Here's an example of one of the small broadheads that we see today, the compact style broadhead with the chisel point. These things tune extremely well. They fly just like your field points, but there's a lot of negatives with this, especially going into heavy or large animals. First and foremost, you're going to notice is the cutting diameter of this broadhead is not as good as you will see on some of the wider broadheads. Don't limit yourself to thinking that this is not an effective broadhead. This one is one of those that requires good shot placement. It requires knowing the type carcass you're going after to be successful, but this does have an application. A little difference between the two as we step up into a little larger broadhead. Replaceable blades, again, it's an example here from Grim Reaper. It does have a chisel point type end. The blades are replaceable, but we see the same problems that we see with a lot of replaceable blade broadheads, is that it's a very thin backbone blade, not a lot of blade there. Again, these have the potential to break as they enter in or they hit a bone. These blades do have the potential to break. But again, this being the extreme and small compact style broadheads, and you can see as they progress up, they get a little bigger. And again, application is going to be paramount with this. Well, I hope we didn't confuse you too much. I hope what information we provided will be helpful in your next selection of the type broadhead. Follow us here on our website for more information, and we thank you.